Why do we have stress? We have stress because we feel hopeless in a situation. How many times have we felt like the end of the world has come over a particular problem, and when you think back 5 years down the road, you go, that was really kind of silly because it all worked out? Hasn't just about everything in our life always just kind of worked out? Why is it in the moment we can't figure that out? It's because we have a Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara is going, no, you need to overreact. You need to do something about this. If you let this keep going on like it is, it's going to mess up your family. It's going to mess up your home. And look, the best thing you can do is run away from your whole problems. Get away from it. Divorce the old klutz. Right? That's your Yetzer Hara. It's telling you what to do. And then when you make the decision to do it, what happens? Yetzer Hara says, you are such a miserable human being. You made this decision. And then with the help of the Satan, Hasatan, he accuses you before Hashem. Look at this person. They're supposed to be righteous. They just blew a gasket right in the middle of the store, overpriced items. My wife was telling me today she was in the store and a lady came up to the counter and she was going to pay for a loaf of bread. It was a very good deal. And she said, oh, no, I'm not paying. This is like expired. Made a big deal out of an expired piece of bread. My wife and I, one Thanksgiving, decided, you're going to know this story, decided that we were going to just have a chilled out Thanksgiving. My sons were 12, 9, and whatever Emily's age, 6. And we were just going to have like just a real simple dinner, and then we're going to go watch a movie or something. And Nate and Michael, my 2 boys, I only later found this out, that they constantly conspire to pester me, right? They would make me think that I've slept all day when I woke up because I work night shift, and they'd tell me, hey, it's late, you need to get up, and really I'd slept 2 hours. I don't know if you knew they had done this in the summertime. And I would get up and I'm blurry-eyed and they're kind of helping me around and they're getting me coffee and they're being all nice. Really, they were winding me up, knowing that I'd only slept a couple of hours. And then I say, hey, we'll go outside, we'll see you tomorrow. And they go outside to play. And then I realize they just woke me up and I've slept 2 hours, right? So they're constantly winding me up. So this time, they come to the dinner table in their underwear. I told them, it's totally inappropriate. Go put some clothes on to sit at the table. So they are in the room, and you can hear, ow, oh, ow, Michael, stop. That's what you hear the whole time. Finally, I said, get in here quick. We're ready to eat, so we're waiting. Little Emily's sitting there like she always is, prim and proper, ready to eat. They come in, and now they have underwear and T-shirts. I was like, go get some clothes on. Right? They're winding me up. I only know that they do this kind of stuff after they're adults. They wouldn't tell me then. So they then finally come in and they're sitting around the table. And I said, let's have a divine moment. I said, let's talk about all the good things that has happened in your life. I said, Nate, we'll start with you. You're the eldest son. And Nate was like, oh, I'm thankful for, and I can't even remember what asinine thing he said. Right? But it just got on my nerves. And I was like, okay. And then by then, Michael and Emily are laughing. Right? It's funny. And then we get to Michael, and Michael's like, I'm thankful for, and I have no idea. It was something insane. Right? And I'm like, oh, I am so annoyed. Do you remember this, babe? Yeah. And then my daughter is there, and then she sort of chimes in. I was like, look, let's just eat. So we eat. And finally, Nate and Michael's like, do we have to eat this? I'm like, no, you don't have to eat. Just go outside. So they're outside playing, and I start winding myself up, right? You guys know what I'm talking about, your parents. And my wife was putting away the dishes, and I'm going, we're trying to raise these kids to be respectful, and they're not being respectful. And, you know, we do the right thing as parents, and we try to be a right example. I'm just going, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and I'm putting dishes in the sink, and bringing stuff over, and cling, 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 you know, making noise. And she's just kind of like, you know, it's not that big of a deal, and, you know, we'll get over it, and, you know. And I said, you know what, no, I'm going to set this straight. So I go out in the garage, hit the garage door, raises up, and they're like shooting basketball. They totally ignore me. Nate, Mike, come over here. Nothing. Nate, get over here now. So they come over, bump, bump, bouncing the ball as I'm trying to talk to them, and I'm like, give me the ball, right? And as I'm talking to them, they both have this silly grin on their face. Right? Do you know, all these parents, you know what I'm talking about. And I said, wipe that expletive, first time ever with my kids, grin off your face. And the shock on their face. And then Michael was like, you cussed us. And I'm like, everything that I was wanting to accomplish was just shot out the cannon. Right? I just said, go play, shut the door. Felt horrible. Why did I say all this? Is because I allowed my yetzer hara, my evil inclination, to wind me up. Instead of sitting there thinking about, okay, they're kids, they're having a great time, it's Thanksgiving, they're getting ready to enjoy the movie, whatever. I didn't even think about that. I had my ego involved. My ego was hurt because I didn't feel like that my sons were being the great patriarchs that they should be or something, I don't know. And it was a very, very awakening moment for me, and especially since I used language that I shouldn't have used. And as I was telling Richard that, I said, you know what, the big thing that it reminded me of is I was the one that had the problem around the table, not my kids. Because I was letting them stress me out. I was letting my kids stress me out. Because whatever they were doing, my yetzer hara was encouraging me to react to what they were doing. Instead of step out of the situation, think clearly, think with my yetzer tov, and be logical about the whole process. The yetzer hara was doing just like my two boys were doing, and every time something would happen, it would say, see, you're not a good father, because if you were, these kids wouldn't be acting this way. Right? You hear it? Whispers in your ear. And if you were the best quality father you could be, you would have control of the situation, and your kids wouldn't be this way. And then, after they go outside, the yetzer hara is saying, you know what, you need to take control of this situation. Now watch this. Yetzer hara is like, you need to take control. You need to discipline those boys because they need to know who's the boss. I'm like, yeah, yetzer hara, that's true. And I go out and I hit the garage door and it comes open, and then we have that seminal moment. And as I'm walking away, the yetzer hara says, oh, what a miserable human being you are. Do you see how it works? How much stress is produced in our life because we listen to the yetzer hara.